You are now watching Cultural Survival's Global News Bulletin. Every month, Cultural Survival brings you the latest news impacting indigenous peoples across the globe. This November edition features important stories from Europe, North, Central, South America, Africa, and beyond. Starting news from UN. Indigenous peoples leaders at COP30 in Belém, Brazil, secured global recognition of their territorial rights as a critical climate solution, demanding justice for forest defenders. The record attendance resulted in a 1.86 billion pledge and a commitment to secure 160 million hectares of indigenous lands by 2030. With 20% of new conservation funds guaranteed to flow directly to indigenous peoples.
In the USA, Governor Gavin Newsom officially declared November 2025 as Native American Heritage Month, celebrating the resilience and diverse cultures of California's 109 federally recognized tribes. The proclamation emphasizes the state's deep connection to its indigenous population and highlights the vital global role of indigenous peoples as guardians of biodiversity.
In Canada, the Vatican will return several dozen indigenous Canadian artifacts, including an Inuit kayak, from its museum collections as a gesture of reconciliation. Following Pope Francis' 2022 apology for the residential school system, this move acknowledges the Catholic Church's role in cultural suppression and facilitates repatriation to originating communities.
In Australia, Victoria has passed a landmark statewide treaty bill establishing Australia's first treaty with its First Peoples and creating the democratically elected Geelong Wall body. The historic legislation acknowledges 60,000 years of indigenous custodianship, rejects terra nullius, and mandates truth-telling, addressing systematic discrimination and setting a national precedent.
In Norway, Norway's energy regulator rejected the 800 megawatt Davy wind farm in Finland, citing major irreversible impact on a continuous natural wilderness area and its crucial value to Sami culture and traditional reindeer herding. The ruling marks a significant victory for indigenous rights and environmental protection.
In South Africa, Khoisan communities in South Africa remain frustrated 8 years after a Human Rights Commission report called for key reforms, including official recognition and language preservation. Government updates in Uppington failed to satisfy representatives who contend that promises have not translated into meaningful change on issues like removing the term coloured from official documents. Staying in South Africa, the city of Cape Town won a legal interdict preventing Khoisan community members led by Johannes van Rooyen from unauthorized occupation of vacant Mitchell's Plain land. The court affirmed the city's right to protect property and deliver housing against claims of historical dispossession.
In Uganda, the World Bank's inspection panel has registered a request from the Batwa indigenous peoples concerning Uganda's investing in forest and protocol areas for climate-smart development projects. The Batwa alleges the project has caused their displacement, loss of access to ancestral lands, and inadequate consultation as it targets conservation and reforestation in areas they have long inhabited. The registration begins a review to determine if a full investigation onto potential World Bank policy violation is warranted.
Moving to Malaysia now, 52 Southeast Asian and European civil society organizations, or CSOs, are demanding the formal institutionalization of their forum with the Asian-EU policy dialogue on human rights to ensure meaningful and systematic participation. citing shrinking civic space and worsening crises, including threats to human rights and climate issues. The CSOs, such as the Asia Indigenous Peoples Pact, stressed the need to be recognized as strategic partners for joint efforts in democracy, justice, and protecting vulnerable groups.
In Thailand, 11 Thai indigenous leaders face criminal prosecution under the Public Assembly Act for peacefully protesting new conservation royal decrees that they argue dispossess them of their ancestral lands, highlighting a global trend of criminalizing dissent against unjust land policies.
To the Philippines, indigenous groups and allies in the southern Philippines are opposing a large-scale coal strip mining operation which has caused environmental damage and accidents since 2022. To defend their ancestral lands against the project now managed by an unknown buyer, tribal leaders are actively implementing Balik Lasang, that means restoring forests, through reforestation efforts to block further mining activities.
In Mexico, indigenous Maya communities in Yucatan are fiercely opposing a new Heineken brewery in Canacin, arguing it is an unauthorized industrial megaproject that threatens vital water resources and their human rights, continuing a pattern of development imposed without their consent.
To South America now, moving to Peru. Peru's Congress faced immediate backlash for eliminating the Commission on Andean, Amazonian, and Afro-Peruvian peoples, environment and ecology in new bicameral system regulations, which human rights groups denounced as an historic setback that disregards the country's vulnerable populations and environmental protectors.
In Colombia, indigenous and peasant social movements have occupied key ministerial offices in Bogota, demanding the national government honor signed agreements and advance crucial pension and health reforms, asserting their unified mobilization is a collective response against the Colombian oligarchy. In Honduras, the Garifuna community of Triunfo de la Cruz, Honduras, has condemned a third armed assault on October 11, 2025, which activist Miriam Miranda called the modern face of the old colonial dispossession, underscoring the ongoing land dispossession and criminalization of defenders. Leaders denounced the impunity of armed groups, attributing it to the local authorities' failure to enforce security and execute binding Inter-American Court of Human Rights rulings. In Brazil, hundreds of indigenous peoples led by Articulation of Indigenous Peoples of Brazil protested in Brazil, demanding the government urgently recognize and demarcate their traditional lands. Leaders assert that legally securing these territories is a crucial, high-impact climate measure as indigenous land actively resists deforestation.
To Paraguay, indigenous communities in Paraguay are escalating nationwide roadblocks and mobilizations, demanding state recognition of ancestral territories and an end to agribusiness-driven evictions. Protesters blending cultural rituals with demands for the removal of the Indigenous Institute head affirm they will not back down.
That is all for this edition of Cultural Survival's Global News Bulletin. Stay tuned for our next broadcast. For more information on the rights of indigenous peoples, visit cs.org and follow Cultural Survival on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Threads, and Blue Sky.